Welcome to another episode of Deep Dive into Real Estate by Team Luddy Dillon. This is the place where we simplify real estate for you, one topic at a time. Enjoy.
Okay, so let's be honest for a sec. Who hasn't, scrolled through those online house listings when something new pops up?
Totally.
It's like, whether you're seriously looking or just curious, those open house photos can be kind of irresistible.
Oh, for sure.
And, sometimes those pictures just don't cut it. You got to see a place in person.
Absolutely.
That's why open houses are still a big deal.
Yeah.
Speaking of which, we're actually part of Laddie Dillon's real estate team here in the Peel region.
That's right.
And we're all about giving you the inside scoop on, making smart choices about buying or selling or even investing.
Exactly.
Laddie's been helping people navigate the Peel market since way back in 2007.
Wow, that's a long time.
That's Brampton, Caledon, and Mississauga, for anyone who's not familiar.
Right.
So think of this deep dive as your secret weapon for getting the most out of those open house visits.
Love that. And here's the thing. This isn't just for buyers.
Oh.
Sellers can learn a ton from attending open houses too.
Oh, interesting.
Especially if you're thinking of listing your own place sometime soon.
So, what kind of stuff can they pick up?
Well, you can see how other people stage their homes and what kind of things buyers are, responding to.
I see.
It's like market research gold.
Makes sense.
Okay,
so let's jump into it. Our source starts off by talking about what to wear to an open house.
All right.
Now, I gotta admit, when I saw the part about avoiding, seen better days sweatpants, I kind of chuckled.
Uh-huh.
Are we really judging people's loungewear at an open house?
Well, think of it this way. First impressions matter.
I guess so.
You want to project an image of someone who's, serious about maybe buying.
So it's not about being all dressed up.
Not exactly. It's more about showing respect for the seller and, the whole process.
Right, okay. But let's be real. Is showing up in a full suit going to get me a better deal?
Probably not.
Maybe a happy medium then.
Exactly. Aim for that, approachable but respectful vibe.
Oh.
Think business casual. You're not going on a job interview or anything.
Right.
But you also don't want to look like you just rolled out of bed.
Makes sense. Okay,
Yeah.
So clothes, check.
Check.
Now, our source brings up something I've always wondered about the doorbell.
Oh, yeah.
Do you always have to ring it at an open house?
That's funny you mention that because the answer isn't as simple as you might think.
Oh.
Different agents have different styles.
Okay.
And some of them prefer, a more hands-off approach.
What do you mean?
They might be observing from a distance or busy prepping.
So what are you supposed to do? Just kind of awkwardly stand there?
Not quite. Just a simple hello usually works.
Okay.
Or letting them know you're there without being too intrusive.
It's all about finding that balance.
Exactly.
Good tip. Okay, so once you're inside, the source lays out some rules of engagement, so to speak.
Right.
Basically, be respectful.
Yeah. It's like, put yourself in the seller's shoes for a minute. Buyers need to picture themselves actually living in the space.
Right.
And if you're, opening closets, crowding other people, or just making a ruckus, it kind of ruins the whole vibe.
Yeah, totally.
Plus, nobody wants to feel like they're under a microscope in their own home.
So true. Okay, this next part is interesting. The source talks about the different types of agents you might encounter at an open house.
Oh, yeah.
The engaged, the disengaged, and somewhere in between.
Haha. It's like a real estate agent personality test.
Totally.
Yeah.
You might see one glued to their phone, another deep in conversation with a potential buyer, and another one just kind of floating around.
Exactly.
So how do you, as a buyer, figure out what's going on?
Good question.
Is the phone-obsessed agent just slacking off, or are they secretly working some real estate magic?
Honestly, it could be either one.
Really?
They might be following up with leads, networking, or, maybe just scrolling through social media.
So how do you know?
The key is to watch how they interact with other people. Do they seem genuinely interested in answering questions and helping visitors? That's what really matters.
And our source makes a good point. Don't hog the agent's time.
Right.
But if you've got serious questions, get a business card.
Absolutely. Especially since the agent hosting the open house, well, they might not actually be the listing agent.
Oh, that's right.
I know.
The source mentioned something about associate agents and teams.
Yep.
Can you explain that a bit more?
Sure. Sometimes the listing agent has a whole team helping them out.
I see.
You might be talking to someone who's just helping out with open houses or showings.
Gotcha.
It's always a good idea to clarify who you're talking to and what their role is.
Makes sense. And this is a good place to talk about another point the source brings up: dual agency.
Ah, yes.
This can get a little complicated, so bear with us. Basically, dual agency is when the same agent represents both the buyer and the seller.
Right.
It's kind of like trying to play both sides of a chessboard at the same time. While it's legal in some places, it can be tricky because, the agent has responsibilities to both parties.
That's the tough part.
So how can buyers protect themselves in that situation?
Well, transparency is key. If you're already working with an agent, just be upfront about it.
Okay.
Have their business card ready to hand over. That avoids any confusion.
Right.
And potential conflicts down the road.
Speaking of agents, our source points out that open houses can be a great way to actually find one.
Oh, absolutely.
You get to see them in action and, observe their style,
Yeah.
get a feel for their personality. It's like a real-life agent audition.
Haha, I love that.
And hey, if you're in the Peel region and looking for an agent who really knows their stuff, well, an open house is the perfect chance to meet someone from Lady Tillon's team.
For sure.
We know this area like the back of our hand.
Inside and out.
And we're all about making the whole process smooth and stress-free.
Absolutely.
And if you have any questions before, during, or after your open house adventures, don't hesitate to give Laddie a call.
Yeah.
The number's 905-598-0725. We're always happy to help.
Always.
Okay, before we move on to the next part of our deep dive, let's talk about something that happens a lot at open houses, the curious neighbor.
Oh, yeah.
Our source actually has some advice for neighbors who are attending open houses.
Interesting.
But I think this is where things get really interesting for buyers.
Oh, tell me more.
Neighbors can be like a goldmine of information.
You think so?
Oh yeah, they have the inside scoop on the neighborhood,
Right.
the community. Heck, even the history of the house itself. It's like having access to this hyper-local encyclopedia.
I never thought of it that way.
They've lived there, experienced the, day-to-day realities of the area.
That's true.
They could tell you things that agents and sellers might not even think to mention.
Good point.
So let's say you're at an open house and you spot a neighbor casually checking things out. What's the etiquette here? Do you just bombard them with questions?
Well, remember, they're not there to give you a personal tour or spill all the neighborhood gossip.
Right.
But a friendly, hi, I'm thinking of moving to the neighborhood. What do you love about living here? Can go a long way.
That's a good opener.
Yeah. It shows you're genuinely interested, not just trying to, pry.
Exactly. And who knows, you might strike up a conversation that leads to some valuable insights.
Exactly.
Maybe they'll mention the amazing bakery around the corner.
Or warn you about the noisy dog park across the street.
Yeah. This whole neighbor aspect shows how open houses can be about so much more than just viewing a property.
I agree.
It's about, immersing yourself in the potential neighborhood.
Yeah.
Soaking up the vibe.
Yeah.
And getting insights from the people who know it best.
I like that. It's all part of the bigger picture.
Finding a place that really fits your lifestyle and needs. Okay, so we've covered what to wear, how to act, and even how to chat up the neighbors.
We have.
But let's not forget the star of the show, the house itself.
Of course not.
And while our source doesn't really go into specifics about evaluating a property, it does stress how important observation is.
Okay.
And asking the right questions.
Makes sense.
So what are some key things buyers should look out for when they're touring an open house? Because let's be honest, it's easy to get distracted by the fancy staging and those, perfectly placed bowls of fruit.
Oh, absolutely. It's like you got to look beyond the Instagram filter.
Totally. So how do you do that?
The key is to focus on the bones of the house.
What do you mean?
The layout, the natural light, the condition of the floors and walls.
I see. Those are the elements that really matter in the long run.
Exactly. Not whether the throw pillows match the curtains or not.
Right. And while you're taking all that in, don't be afraid to ask questions about anything that, catches your eye. Whether it's some, quirky architectural detail or a potential red flag.
Good point.
So, what are some good questions to ask the agent at an open house? Because, let's face it, sometimes your mind goes blank when you're there.
Oh, I know that feeling.
You're right, it can be a little overwhelming.
It can. That's why it's good to have a few questions in mind beforehand.
Okay, so like what?
For instance, instead of just asking, how old is the roof? Try something a little deeper.
Okay.
Like, have there been any recent repairs or upgrades to the roof? Are there any known issues?
Ah, that's a good one.
Right. It shows you're really thinking about the long term and not just the surface stuff.
It's about going beyond the superficial.
Exactly. And don't be shy about asking about those, less glamorous aspects of home ownership.
Like what?
Things like property taxes, utility costs, even the parking situation.
Right.
All of that can impact your budget and lifestyle.
It's all about gathering information to make a smart decision.
Exactly.
Which is what we're all about here at Laddie Dillon's team.
Absolutely. And speaking of agents, let's circle back to how important it is to find the right one.
Yeah.
Open houses are a fantastic opportunity to see potential agents in action.
It's like test driving an agent before you commit.
Haha, that's a good way to put it. And if you're in the Peel region, swing by an open house hosted by Laddie Dillon's team.
We're friendly, approachable, and we know this market like the back of our hands.
Plus, we're always happy to answer questions and offer guidance.
Even if you're just starting to think about buying or selling.
Exactly.
Okay, before we wrap up this part of our deep dive, I want to leave you with something to think about. Imagine you're at an open house and you have the chance to ask a neighbor just one question to get the most valuable insight about the property or the neighborhood. What would it be?
Ooh, that's a good one.
It really makes you think about what's important to you.
Right.
Is it about the community vibe, the schools, the commute, or something completely different?
It really does.
That one question can reveal so much about what really matters to you as a potential buyer.
I agree. So we were talking about that one insightful question you could ask a neighbor at an open house.
Right, and how it can tell you a lot about what matters most in a neighborhood.
It's kind of fascinating how much you can learn from just one question.
It really is, like getting a sneak peek behind the curtain.
Exactly, because let's be real, a house is just a house.
True.
It's the community, the people that make it a home.
So true. Okay, shifting gears a bit, let's talk about actually evaluating the property. Our source talks about looking beyond the staging, but that's tough sometimes.
Oh, yeah, staging can really work its magic.
It can, but as buyers, we need to be smart about it.
Absolutely. You're not buying the furniture or the decor.
Right.
You're buying the structure, the layout, the potential.
So what are some things to focus on during a tour? Like, what should we be paying attention to?
First, think about the flow of the space.
Okay.
Does the layout work for you? Enough natural light? How are the floors, walls, windows?
Ah, I see. Those things can't be easily changed with some paint or new furniture.
Exactly. They're the foundation of the property.
And while you're checking all that out, don't be afraid to ask questions.
For sure. It's a chance for you to learn and the agent to see how interested you are.
So what are some strategic questions to ask? Sometimes it's hard to think on the spot, you know?
I hear ya. It's good to have a few ready.
Okay, give me an example.
Instead of asking, how old is the roof? Try, have there been any recent repairs or upgrades? Are there any known issues?
That's good. It shows you're thinking long term.
Exactly. And don't be afraid to ask about the less glamorous stuff, too.
Like what?
Property taxes, utility costs, even parking. It all matters.
Right? It all adds up.
It does. Remember, the more you know, the better decision you can make.
And if you're in the Peel region, Laddie Dillon and her team are the ones to call.
Laddie's been helping people in Brampton, Caledon, and Mississauga for years.
They're the experts.
They are. They'll guide you through the whole buying or selling process.
Like your own personal real estate superheroes.
Exactly. So whether you're a seasoned investor or a first-time buyer, give Laddie a call.
That's 905-598-0725.
They're there to help.
Now, before we wrap up, let's go back to that neighbor question.
The one about getting the most valuable insight.
Yeah. It makes you think about your priorities.
It really
What
does.
matters most to you in a neighborhood.
Because ultimately, a house is more than just bricks and mortar.
It's about finding that sense of community, right?
Exactly. A place where you feel connected.
And on that note, we'll be right back to finish up our deep dive into open house etiquette. Welcome back. We've covered a lot about open house etiquette, from how to act to getting the inside scoop from neighbors.
We have. But before we wrap up, let's go over some of the key things we talked about.
Sounds good. It's easy to get caught up in the excitement of seeing those beautiful homes.
Right. Imagine yourself cooking in that amazing kitchen or hanging out by the fireplace.
Exactly. But open houses are also a chance to learn about the market and figure out what you really want.
They are. Whether you're actively searching or just starting out, open houses are a great resource.
They are. So first up, remember that first impressions are important.
Definitely. Dress respectfully, but comfortably.
You want to show you're serious about buying, but you also don't want to be uncomfortable walking around all day.
Right. And once you're inside, be mindful of the homeowner's space.
Right. Wait your turn to enter rooms, and don't go opening closets or drawers.
And resist the urge to test out the sofa.
Haha. No matter how comfy it looks, it's about respecting their home and privacy.
Exactly. And don't forget about the agent.
Right. Talk to them, ask questions, but don't take up all their time.
Have some good questions ready beforehand and see how they interact with other people.
Are they helpful? Knowledgeable? That's what you want in an agent.
And don't underestimate the power of talking to neighbors.
Oh yeah, those friendly faces can tell you so much about the area.
They're like your insider guides to the neighborhood.
And if you're in the Peel region and feeling a little lost, Letty Dillon and her team are here to help.
Laddie's been a trusted advisor in Brampton, Caledon, and Mississauga for years.
They're the real estate dream team.
They really are. So if you're ready to buy or sell, give Laddie a call.
That's 905-598-0725. You won't regret it.
You won't. Now, as you head out to those open houses, remember our tips, have fun, and enjoy the experience.
Happy house hunting. That wraps up our deep dive into open house etiquette.
We hope you learned a thing or two and feel ready to take on those open houses.
Knowledge is power, especially in real estate.
So keep learning, keep exploring, and most importantly, keep those real estate dreams alive.
And that's a wrap from us. Thanks for joining us for another deep dive.
Don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We will be back with something new and something interesting.